Hello and welcome to my channel Inspiring Life Changes. My name's Colette and I'm here today to do a new moon reading for the collective energies. I've been trying to do this since earlier on this afternoon. It's now about 7 o'clock in the evening and I'm still just starting. I have my cat in the same room, so there could be absolute disaster at some point, so we'll see how it goes, but it's all getting a bit stressful at the moment. So I pulled the card to show you all what this moon is all about. And the new moon in Aries speaks of it's time for action, or it's time to take action, time for action. New moon in Aries, so it's the first new moon of the new zodiacal year, Aries being the first sign of the zodiac. We've just had spring equinox, the sun has just passed over the point of the world axis, and so everything is new, everything's a new beginning. And the new moon is when the sun and the moon come together in the same sign. So that's what's happening at this moment in time. Sun and the moon are coming together in Aries for a new beginning. Now, the sun is the masculine energy and the moon is the feminine energy. And so when the two come together, they're kind of swapping intentions, or they're setting intentions. It's a bit like setting the scene for the kind of, you know, the next play or the next scene. Literally, it's like setting that scene. What's coming up next? What are we doing next? Where are we going? What's the next part that's being played, if you like, in this play? And conjunctions are always seed points as well, so it is a seed point that is being generated here, but also because it's the first moon of the zodiacal new year, as I was saying, it's kind of like the intentions for the 12 months as well. So this is bigger than just it being the new moon, and therefore it's just going to be a 2-week thing. This is kind of setting the whole of 2020 into energetically into being up until the next new moon that will take place in Aries in 2021. So this is quite a major event, and so it's also a good time for us to set our intentions of what it is that we want to do within that 12-month period. What is it we're aiming for? What is it that we want to achieve for ourselves? What is it we want to expand or grow or have come into being over this next 12 months? So the new beginnings, I'm just going to read this quick astrology before I go into doing the tarot reading. If anybody has watched my readings before, I do, for the new and the full moon, I do a quick rundown of the astrology, and then I will go into the actual reading that I've set out. And I've laid all the cards out, set all the cards out, because it will save time rather than shuffling them as well. So very quickly, I will go through the new moon and the sun at this moment, or when the new moon took place, which it has already happened. It took place at 04 degrees and 12 minutes. And this is I think this is the 6th month in a row that we have had a new moon at 04 degrees of its sign. So that's quite significant as well. This has happened 6 times now with all the new moons. They've all been at 04 degrees. And 04 degrees is also it's a challenge point. The 4 is always seen as a challenge. It's always a kind of quite difficult energy. And also because it's at the beginning of the sign, it's in the first decan. It's kind of a place of things not being so mature, things kind of the first 10 decans of an astrological sign, because they're kind of divided into 3 parts as well, individual signs, up to the 10th degree is kind of seen as the younger energy, if you like, the kind of growing, maturing energy, or getting to a point of of learning. It's the learning stage. It's the kind of, yeah, the learning before you kind of put what you've learned into place. And then you've got, after the 20 degree, is more the kind of experience, the kind of mastery of that energy. So this 4 degree point has all been about what we're learning at these new moons as well. So new beginnings, new year, intention, as I said, what are we wanting to create? And at the same time as this new moon as well, interestingly, and a major player within this new moon energy is Chiron. And next to Chiron, which most astrologers aren't kind of bringing into the picture, there is Black Moon Lilith. And I keep going on about this video that I'm going to be doing, and I'm still working on the research and getting it all together. And I'm still trying to work out how I'm going to do it, but I will be doing a video on this energy as well. So Chiron with Black Moon Lilith together, right conjunct the sun and the moon, that are also conjunct. So there's a lot of seeding points happening at this moment in time. There's a lot of healing process that's going to be taking over this next 12 months. There's healing processes from a deeper, very Aries, because it's in Aries, the Aries kind of energy of getting our needs met, wanting to kind of heal those wounds from our childhood in many ways, I feel, as well. The kind of Aries energy of demanding. It can be very hot-headed, it can be very reckless, it can be very there's an aggressiveness to Aries as well. It's the warrior energy in many ways, but there is also a side of it that can be very innovative, very initiative, very entrepreneurial, very kind of what's the word, very where am I? Yeah, I like to do with our identity, and also to do with our sovereignty, who we are as individuals as well. Aries is very much about the individual sense of our own identity. And so this is the healing that is taking place as well, this kind of immaturity with Aries. There is this kind of immaturity, there's this younger, because it's the first sign of the zodiac, it is like the baby of the zodiac, really. So there's this kind of need to mature and to grow up and to stop being so impulsive about things, to stop being so reckless about things, to kind of take a moment to breathe and not just go headlong into something and kind of worry about the consequences. I've spoken to about this previously, like worrying about the consequences after the action has already been taken. It's like it's too late. Once that's happened, that point is gone, it's too late. So there is also this bridging energy between the energies of these kind of two sides of ourselves as well, because Aries can also talk about courage, but it can also talk about lack of courage as well, of not having the courage to be who we are, to stand up for ourselves and to kind of say, like, you know, I don't agree with this, or I don't like this, or I don't want this to happen this way. So there's also this kind of energy where we can be very like babies. We can be very easy to manipulate in many ways. We can be very kind of handing our power over, even though it's ruled by Mars. There is this sense of like, it can be easier, if you like. It can be easier to allow somebody else to do this for you, rather than you actually taking responsibility and kind of doing this for yourself. But Chiron here in this place is about this kind of healing of our distortions. It also can be healing of our generational story as well, the stories that are passed down from generation to generation that gets repeated over and over again. And it is, like I said, it's bridging the gap between, how can I put it, between the person that we think we should be and the person that we're growing into being, and kind of bringing that two together with courage and determination, and with a sense of strength as well, because Mars and Aries is about individual identity, strength within ourselves. So at the moment we still have Capricorn stellium planets happening. It's been ongoing forever by the feel of things now. Things have been really heavy, the energy's been really heavy, the scenarios in our lives are really heavy. We've got Mars at 25 degrees and 31 of Capricorn. We've got Pluto at 24 degrees and 44 of Capricorn. We've got Jupiter at 23 of Capricorn. We also have the South Node, which has just moved into the 3rd degree of Capricorn. So over the next month and a half, the node is going to be moving to the 0 point where it will eventually leave and move into Gemini. So it's at the kind of end of Capricorn now. It's getting closer to the end of Capricorn, which means that that kind of karmic energy is kind of really building up and really kind of getting to that point of, like, you know, it's got to be released, it's got to be let go of. And this is the energy of everything that it's all about Capricorn, because it's in Capricorn. So that's the energy that the karma has all been about. What we need to let go of is this sense of the structure that we believe we need to live in, the structures that we've been told for the last 500 years, that this is how it is, this is how it has to be, these are the laws, these are the ways we are governed, these are the ways we are structured, and yeah, just kind of herded and kind of, you know, looked after in many ways, but in a way that's not good for our own maturity again, our own growth. You know, keep handing that over to somebody else. It's like mentally or spiritually, we don't grow ourselves. We're not allowed to grow ourselves. We kind of just do what we're told to do because we're all kind of herded in that same direction. And that's very kind of Saturn as well, is kind of restriction, that kind of keeping you, if you think of like sheep all being kind of penned in, that is a very Saturn restrictive kind of energy. But we've had this Pluto Saturn conjunction, which is all about everything that's falling down, and you can see that in the outside world, what's happening in the outside world at the moment. Saturn has moved into Aquarius, which is all about much more freedom, about sociability. And as soon as Saturn moves into Aquarius, we're all being told to isolate, self-isolate. So, you know, the social kind of thing of being out there and exchanging our energies with people is totally being restricted right at this time by Saturn, which has literally just moved into Aquarius. So that's really interesting. It's like really seeing the astrology as above, so below, playing out in our lives. So Mars is now leading the gang, shall we say. It's now leading the pack, typical Mars fashion, last into the party, but now he's kind of ahead of the game. And Mars is all about our energy, our drive, how we pursue whatever it is that we desire. There is that Aries Mars energy again. How we deal with and react to achieving our goals and our mission in life. And Mars is now powered up and on a mission. Something within us has now changed and died, because Mars has now moved over both Jupiter and Pluto, and Mars itself will be moving into Aquarius and will be conjuncting with Saturn very soon as well. So when Mars went over the top of Pluto, it was like it's the end of something. Something has finished. There is no more. You cannot go back. You cannot kind of redo it. It's ended. It's finished. It's got to be something new. And this is what this new moon is about as well in Aries. It's like whatever that energy was because Mars rules Aries, whatever the way that you were doing something, or the way that you thought you should be doing something, your drive, your passion towards something, it's like that energy has just been cut, ended. Pluto finalizes. Pluto says no more. That's finished. Now it's time for something new. So we are now in the process of transforming whatever it is that we need to take into the new world, so to speak, into our new way of being, which is also the Chiron energy as well, the healing, the letting go of all that old stuff that no longer works for us, and healing it and bringing in a new us, an us that's going to be who we actually are and who we are actually meant to be, rather than who we kind of feel that we should be because we've been told by the educational system that we've been brought up with, and our parents, and our possibly even our friends and our relatives, and our you know, the whole of kind of the society ideas that are all kind of mingled in that big pot of society of this is how you do things, and if you don't do it like this then you're wrong, you know, you need to conform, you need to fit yourself in somehow. So all of that is kind of coming to an end, and you're being asked to kind of like, you know, really look at who you are and who you want to become over this next kind of 12 months up until 2021 really. And things will really start to shift and kind of like move up another gear, shall we say. This year is a bit more slow and a bit more kind of a bit more challenging. Yeah, more challenging, but it's giving us time to kind of work through those challenges as well. Okay, so where are we? Yeah, Mars is being transformed, and it's also activating and awakening both the energies of Jupiter and Pluto at the same time, as well as reactivating the 2022 January conjunction point as well, which as itself has just gone over. So the end of this month, kind of mid-March onwards, is kind of a repeating pattern of whatever was happening to us in January, at the point of that conjunction in January, around January the 12th when that conjunction took place, and around that whole kind of period of time of Saturn and Pluto coming together, whatever was happening in your life in January, you're kind of going to see the same scenarios playing out again, but in a different kind of way, in a different energy. But that energy has been reactivated, almost for us to kind of reevaluate it. And it's also going to come up again in the later half of 2020, because Saturn is going to retrograde back into Capricorn. And so it's going to kind of go over the same old ground where it was previously, before it moves back into Aquarius in December on the 21st, where it will meet up with Jupiter, and that's really when things are going to change quite dramatically and fully. So up until that point, we're being given a kind of reevaluating opportunity, and kind of really being asked, I think, on some level, you know, what is it that we are really wanting to kind of achieve or to create over this next decade? Because you've got to remember that, you know, 2020 is the beginning of a new decade as well. It's like, you know, this is for the next 10 years as well. This is a new decade. And Saturn moving into Aquarius finally on the 21st of December, just before 2021, is kind of really bringing in that new just this whole new energy of air, we're moving out of that heavy, dense earthness that we've been in for so long. Jupiter and Saturn, I believe, meeting up together has happened now almost always in earth signs. If you go back and look, it's happened in all the earth signs over and over and over again. So that's kind of the initiating point of the energies of earth. But now it's going to be moving into air signs, so they're going to keep moving in cycles of being in air signs. And Jupiter basically stays in a sign for every sign for about a year. It's in each individual sign. So Jupiter takes 12 years to go around the whole zodiac, and it hasn't met up with Saturn in Capricorn. It's going to do that in Aquarius, which is the first time for many hundreds of years that has actually taken place. So that's going to be another reason why it's a major world changer, shall we say, life changer for everybody, energy changer. Yeah, so March the 27th and 28th, Jupiter and Pluto are going to conjunct, but because they're both outer realm planets and therefore a lot slower moving, the exact conjunction will not occur until the 4th and 5th of April. So they'll begin to conjunct, but exact won't happen until the 5th of April. And the global energies have yet to peak. So things are yet to come to a kind of point of, how should we put it, a point of like where, you know, where things really, the energies really reach that height, and then they kind of start kind of dissipating, and kind of things start feeling easier and less kind of worrisome and stressful and heavy. And but at the moment, with everything that's going on out there, there's this kind of craziness, which is kind of like, you know, it still hasn't reached that peak yet. It's still yet to get to that point, because Jupiter expands everything. When Jupiter kind of conjuncts or aspects any of the planets, it will make everything seem bigger. That's what Jupiter does. It's larger than life. It kind of makes everything bigger than it actually is. It promises sometimes so much more than it actually gives. It is the planet of gifts as well, but often it can seem like that things are, and particularly at the moment, I think as well, Jupiter's playing a big part in everything that's going on, in the sense of all the fear that's out there and all the kind of mass hysteria, everything being blown out of proportion. And that's just kind of how the energies are at the moment, you know. It's just like these things are fearful. People are living in this fearful stage, and a lot of that is also to do with Neptune as well, this kind of disillusionment of kind of, in Pisces, Neptune is giving out this weird kind of energy of you know, things not again appearing as they really are, and Jupiter's kind of expanding all that energy as well. But Jupiter meeting up with Pluto is really like the kind of Pluto, the underworld, the lord of death and destruction and power, and kind of literally like, you know, the underworld. It's all that kind of stuff that's underneath the surface. Is all kind of, Jupiter is going to be bringing that all up. It's going to be highlighting it. It's going to be really kind of playing to our darkest worries and our fears. And, you know, if you think of Hades and just that kind of you know, the fear of death itself as well, and the fear of what happens after, it's kind of really going to come very much, I feel, into the kind of major awareness on the planet, in the sense of, you know, death is something that we fear, and we've been brought up in many ways to fear death, because there is the unknown and we fear the unknown. And I feel that that has got a big part to play in what's happening at this moment before we kind of move into this new world, if you like, or this new way of being, and this new, it's like we have to go through this death process, this transformation process, and we have to kind of face all our big fears, and that really is kind of one of the biggest fears that we have. So Jupiter is going to be kind of really expanding on that as well. And we've got Mercury in Pisces at 6 degrees 27 minutes. Mercury's moved back out of Aquarius into Pisces, where it's kind of not all that happy. It's kind of foggy, it's kind of like confusion, and it doesn't really know what's going on. But it's also about our instincts and our knowing, because Pisces is all about the deeper subconscious, as well as it being the kind of realm of dreams and mystery and magic and kind of nebulous energy and the vastness of everything as well. There's no boundaries in Pisces. It is about sacrifice, it's about surrender, it's about letting go. It's the 12th sign of the zodiac, so it's the sign before Aries, before the beginning, before the new. So Mercury is kind of moving through, and Mercury is messages. Mercury is the messenger of the gods. Mercury kind of tells or picks up information from all the other planets and kind of passes it round to all the other planets. So when Mercury kind of goes into retrograde, it's kind of going into looking back at things, looking back at what's happened previously, and picking up and kind of really going deeper into the energies of what happened previously. So Mercury is still in its shadow period as well, because it has yet to come out of the place where it last retrograded from. It hasn't reached that spot yet. So I think there was about 12 degrees or something when Mercury went retrograde. So it's got about another 6 degrees to go. I think it was about 12. I could be wrong there, but I think it was round about that point. So it's still got to reach that point before it moves through the rest of Pisces out of its own shadow as well. So, but Mercury is really kind of saying at this moment in time that we have to trust our instincts. We have to trust what feels right for us. Not just what we're being told is right. We have to go with our gut. We have to really listen to our inner voice and take notice of it at this time, because there is this kind of understanding there that we need to take care of, or to listen to ourselves and learn to listen to ourselves and trust our instincts. And the North Node is at 3 degrees of Cancer, and Cancer is all about the home, it's all about our security, it's all about our how can you put it, it's our security, our home, the mother, comfort, sensitivity. It's ruled by the moon, so that has a part to play in it as well. The moon has its own cycles, the emotions, ruler of the tides, rulers of the kind of feminine energy, the menstrual cycle. And at this moment in time, the nodes are and have been in a T-square with this energy of Chiron as well. And because Chiron and the Sun and the Moon are also now conjunct, you've got the South Node here, the North Node here, Chiron, the Sun and the Moon down here. You've got this T-square happening. So the energies are really challenging the nodes at this moment in time. This Chiron energy, the Sun and the Moon together. So the North Node in Cancer is kind of confused as well as to where it's going and what's going on with it and why is this happening. It's like we can't make sense of it. But it's also saying, you know, where do I feel at home? Where is my comfort? Where is my security? And at this moment in time, with everything that's going on out there, we're all being told to self-isolate. We're all being told to stay at home. So we're all kind of having to really kind of focus on this energy really strongly, focusing on our home especially. And so many people don't actually spend a lot of time in their home. You know, home is somewhere where you kind of spend less time. The most time you spend in it, you're sleeping, or you have your weekends there, and then you're kind of, you know, you go out and you do all the things that you can't do during the week because you're at work during the week, and that's where you spend most of your time, is at work, and that's the place that you're really used to. Whereas in your actual home with your family around you and that kind of thing, it's like most people don't really experience that on an everyday basis. You know, we're not kind of allowed in many ways to have that home environment as such anymore. You know, when you think back, that home was the place, you know, you came home and your mother was there, you knew she was going to be there, she was always there, you know, and you weren't kind of, as a child, you weren't kind of given out to somebody else to look after or kind of take care of you and kind of, you know, be the substitute role, really. And I think that there's going to be a lot of issues around this, because there's a lot of women, especially men too, but who are used to going out now and kind of working and bringing the money back into the house as well, and the home, and the children going to school, and you know, that whole routine is being completely turned upside down. So it's like the focus is completely on the home and how everybody kind of interacts together, and you know, the amount of time that you normally don't spend together, you are going to have to spend together. And I think it's going to be quite kind of eye-opening. It could be disruptive as well. There could be, you know, people who kind of don't usually spend so much time together are going to have to be spending more time together. And it's going to, I feel on some level, it is going to challenge people's relationships here. It's going to challenge people's home environment as well. And that's really what this kind of T-square is about, because a square is always about challenges. So the last thing that we have at this moment in time is Venus as well. Venus is in Taurus, and Venus is probably in the best place that it is at the moment. It's about to make a trine over to Jupiter and Pluto during the last 2 weeks of March. So from now on, it's going to be trining from the 27th and the 28th of March to Jupiter and Pluto. Because it's a trine, it's a good supportive energy. So Jupiter is going to be giving Venus a boost of our values. What is it we value? What is it we put our self-worth? How do we value ourselves, in the sense of, do we restrict ourselves from having what we want, or giving ourselves what we need, in the sense of taking care of ourselves? Or, you know, it really is about valuing ourselves as an individual, giving to ourselves, because until we learn to give to ourselves, we can't truly give to other people as well. Venus is also about our resources, how we identify with what we give to ourselves in regard to how much we value who we are. And of course, all the shops are going to be shutting down as well. You know, there's this whole new approach that's going to be needed, really. You know, for a lot of us, or a lot of people, when they're kind of upset, or you know, it's like shopping is the answer. You go out there and you kind of like, you know, you buy something new and it makes you feel better. And that, even that is going to be restricted in many ways for many people. So there's going to be a whole new way of having to deal with our lives, and really kind of look at the ways that we really cope as well in many ways. What are our coping mechanisms here? But Venus is also going to be helping us to feel more self-love and help us feel as though we are supported in that as well. But with this Pluto-Venus trine, it's also going to be showing us where we need to kind of cut things off, where things need to transform, where things need to change, where we need to let go of the old and to move into this new ideas and the way of being. So something big, something dynamic is happening. Life is changing. What supports us is changing. What we are needing is changing. We need to be open to receive in our lives at this time what we believe ourselves is going to help and be beneficial to us. And that is really what the crux of this new moon, I feel, is about as well. So that is a very quick, well, not quite so quick, but that is a rundown of the energies for the new moon in Aries. Sorry about that, I need a quick slurp of my tea. My daughter's put a massive spoon in my cup. So I decided today that I was also going to pull from the medicine cards, which I haven't done in a read at all on my channel. And I pulled the card of the Jaguar, the energy of the Jaguar. Very, very powerful energy. Very powerful. It's medicine energy, known as the medicine cards. And so the Jaguar speaks of integrity and impeccability, which I think is quite interesting at this time as well. And I will read the quick, like, little poetry bit about it, and I'll read you some from the book as well. So it says, "Sacred Jaguar, teach me to wear my power lightly, to walk with impeccability, to approach life with compassion, and to live up to the integrity of my human potential," which I think is very much what we're all being kind of forced into, looking at our own potential and, you know, really kind of taking time to get to know ourselves as well, really, to get to understand more about who we are. So it says, since the death of Sky God, the godlike being who had come from the stars and led the Maya to prosperity and a golden era of spiritual understanding, his teachings of love, integrity, impeccability, and the power of a compassionate heart had been perverted. The distortion of this Jaguar teachings had degenerated to where the priests were sacrificing human beings, foolishly cutting out the victims' hearts to reclaim the power of the golden days of the empire. Forgotten was the authentic power of the honourable and loving heart in Sky God's teachings. And this kind of, for me, is Black Moon Lilith energy as well. That energy that is kind of conjunct everything else at this moment in time. Sorry, that's my cat just jumped up on my table. She's probably going to want to go out in a bit. She's looking for an outer source. Lotus, do you want to go out? Lotus? I'm sure she'll let me know. So also, yeah, the kind of lost my train of thought there. Let me just try and regain where I was. Yeah, the Black Moon Lilith energy of all those things that are kind of literally dark, sinister. It's that kind of, it's that nasty, seedier side of life as well. You kind of, you know, if you think of the black web or the black internet or whatever you like to call it, you know, the black widow spider, they all kind of like sum up that energy of kind of like this darkness, this stuff, this stuff that we don't want to kind of look at. We know it's out there, we know it's happening, we know there's people being kind of suffering, forced to suffer in ways that nobody should have to suffer, and yet we kind of turn a blind eye to it because it's kind of, we don't want to kind of look at it or even kind of acknowledge it. And Black Moon Lilith conjunct Chiron, and with the sun and the moon there as well, also conjuncting it, I feel is really bringing up this stuff to the surface, and it's going to kind of come out a lot more on the world stage, and people are going to be shocked. There is going to be this shock value. There is going to be this kind of like, now we have to look at it. Now we can't ignore it any longer. So for me, this is kind of what this is talking about. It's talking about our integrity and our impeccability. You know, how far will we go? So the great Jaguar spirit, who was Sky God's totem, roamed the dream of the Maya looking for any dishonourable behaviour. Misdeeds and abuses of power had diminished the spirit of the Maya and needed to be sacrificed for the survival of the people. The priests who had abused the authority and power bestowed on them quaked in fear, knowing that the day of reckoning had come. Jaguar brought justice by stalking their dreams and devouring their flagrantly dishonourable and greedy misdeeds. And it speaks of the fact that a lot of this is taking place within the people who have the power for it to happen. The rich, the famous, those that are our leaders, those that people look up to and people would never believe that they were doing this kind of thing. They're the people that are really responsible for so much of what is happening on this planet, that is all about this energy here. So I'm just smiling at my cat who's decided to lay down all over my cards. So Jaguar medicine is integrity and impeccability. Its mission is to devour the unclean aspects of human behaviour. Jaguar teaches us the penalties of inappropriate behaviour and offers the rewards of good medicine to those who stand in their personal integrity and walk through life in an impeccable manner. I'm just going to kind of end that there because I think that's quite enough. But on a kind of smaller picture scale, shall we say, I think at the moment, for me, that kind of impeccability and kind of integrity is also being shown in the way that human nature is behaving at this moment in time, with this panic that's happening and everybody's going out there and mass buying and they're not thinking of anybody else, and they're kind of showing their kind of selfish side of their nature. As long as I'm okay, it doesn't matter about anybody else. And you're kind of really seeing this energy at play. And then, you know, in particular, if you go online, if you like look on places like eBay, you can see that people are buying up things like loo rolls and selling them at extortionate prices. And it kind of shows you the two sides of human nature, you know, the compassionate side that's there thinking about other people and how everybody has to work together through this. And then you've got those who are just like, I don't care. As long as I'm okay, as long as I can make a buck out of it, as long as I can, you know, go further than anybody else, why should I worry about what anybody else is kind of suffering or going through? So I think that's what that medicine card is talking about there. And that's what, you know, is being kind of really highlighted at this moment in time as well. So I'm going to start the reading because I have taken up quite a bit of time already, so it's going to be a long one by the looks of things. And we have the 10 of air to start with. The heart of the reading here is the 10 of air, and this is an ending card. This is a card of finality. The 10 of swords normally would show somebody who's kind of either got loads of swords in their back and they've kind of gone through a lot of suffering. But I really like the way that this deck uses feathers, because it's much more of a gentle expression, because it is to do with the mind as well. It is to do with the kind of the play of the logical senses, if you like. The air represents the mind, the way the mind thinks. And it is, for me, it is about us having to kind of look at new ways of doing things. This is endings. This is kind of saying now you know, now we need to kind of really focus on something different. New beginnings. We can't keep doing the same thing. It's not doing any of us any good. The Ten of Air, or yeah, the Ten of Swords also talks of a kind of a long-term suffering as well. Because to get to the 10, you need to have gone through a lot of pain and a lot of suffer to actually get to that place. And as a human race, we have really gone through a lot of suffering and a lot of pain. And it's covered over, you're having a good time there, Kat. It's covered over with the card of the Hierophant. So this is our challenge at the moment. And I do like the fact as well that there's this feather here. And of course, feathers were used at once upon a time. They were used for quills. They were used for writing with, which is also where, you know, the kind of the pen is mightier than the sword expression comes from as well. Because the writing, the education, the learning, which is also what the air can symbolize as well. The swords can symbolize this kind of experience of what we learn in life. The lessons that we have to go through, the suffering that we have to often put ourselves through in order to kind of get the knowledge and what we seek. And that's, to me, what this Hierophant is about as well. The Hierophant is to do with our connection to something higher. It's to do with our connection to a greater energy, a greater power. And in this card, you've also got the moon up here as well with this star, which kind of represents, I feel, this conjunction that's taking place as well. But she's very similar to the Magician with her candle here and her feather or her sword and her cup of emotions. And a kind of vase, I suppose. I think it is. It's kind of what represents the physical. Although there's also this kind of this rock here, or this crystal here as well, which could also represent the physical realm. But there's also these 2 rings here, just on the side there. And as I was saying, I do think that there's going to be a lot of kind of, you know, a lot of people who are going to be forced into a situation of having to kind of be together, that aren't used to being together for any large length of period of time. They sort of kind of come together for maybe a few hours a week or something. You know, they might share the same bed, but that doesn't mean that there's a real kind of any depth of a relationship there. And I think that this card is what kind of really saying to me that, you know, this is going to be a challenge. This period of time is a challenge for our commitments, what we are committed to, who we're committed to. This could also relate to our jobs as well. You know, we may be, because we have so much time away from them, that we're going to be thinking, well, you know, do I really want to go back and carry on doing that? Am I that committed to it? Do I need to be that committed to it? I've survived like this now. Do I need to go back? So I think there's going to be a lot of people having a lot of interesting experiences over these next, in the UK for us, it's like the next 30 days. We're all on lockdown here. In other parts of the world, you've already been on lockdown for a while. But I also feel as well that there is this support as well, because there's these wings here. There's kind of, she has these angel type wings, and I feel that she's kind of saying, like, you know, that there is this support. And also about us getting more in contact with our own divine self as well, with our own inner higher understanding of who we are. More people are going to have time to be able to, like, you know, do the things that they enjoy doing and find themselves within those things. A lot of people are going to make the most of this time. but there is going to be big change come out of this. And another reason I say that is because the Death card is over the top. It did come out in reverse, so I do feel as though, you know, it is a forced situation. This isn't something that people have just gone, right, okay, you know, I'm really looking forward to my life completely changing and this transformation that's going to be taking place. And I think a lot of people aren't even going to be aware that this is what's taking place. But I feel on some level that this is what the universe is saying. The universe itself is pushing us into this position. This isn't just about governments putting us on lockdown. This is about what the heavens are saying. This is about what the planets are saying. This is about what the higher energies, the higher realms, as above, so below, are saying. And there's a real wake-up call here. A real awakening, I feel, as well. A real awakening happening here, that people are only kind of just beginning to see through what is taking place with their governments, how they're kind of controlled and manipulated and restricted. But this is Pluto. Pluto, as I was saying, is all about, you know, it's the death, transformation, change, secrets as well. Secrets could be coming out, things could be coming out that up till now have been kept hidden, that maybe those who have those secrets don't want them to be out there on the biggest worldwide stage. So let's quickly move on as to what's in our head and what we're aware of. With the Two of Fire is saying normally this is about a kind of a situation of something new beginning to be created in our lives. It came out upside down, and I think this is all about people having to kind of look at things in a new way. Literally, maybe that's why it's upside down, because we are kind of having to kind of really turn things on their head. Everything is being turned on its head, and there is this feeling of like, you know, I can't do things in the same way anymore. I can't do what I've been doing in the same way. And that seems to be quite a general message at the moment, coming through quite strongly. It even came through in a reading that I did the other day, I think it was for Geminis, about how you can't keep doing the same thing in the same way and expect to get a different result. But I feel that this is more about us knowing now that we've got to start creating something different. We've got to start looking at things in a different way. Because this kind of giraffe to me is kind of heading towards this. If you look, the giraffe's got this kind of perplexed look on its face as well, as if to say, you know, I'm just going to keep heading off this cliff. Unless you do something about it, I'm just going to go off this cliff. And she's kind of very despondent here. She's kind of just given up. She's kind of just saying, right, well, you know, I don't know where I'm going. It's all very cloudy. It's all very foggy. For me, it's kind of quite Pisces, Mercury and Pisces energy of kind of our understanding of things not being very clear at the moment. We don't really know intellectually. We don't have answers. We don't have all the kind of reasoning that we need at this moment in time to say, well, yeah, this is definitely why this is like this and this is like this and why it's happened the way it's happened. So I think that's what this card is about, and it's come out with the Knight of Cups over the top. And the Knight of Cups is about, for me today, this card is saying this is about a saviour. This is about people looking for a saviour outside of themselves. So I've got irritating piece of hair there. Because the knight, if you think of the knight of old, the knight in white, you know, on the white horse in shining armour, he came into the picture when the damsel needed rescuing. He was always there as the kind of, you know, the saviour of the weaker. hesitate to say the weaker gender, because it's not just about being female or male. This is just about kind of, you know, we want a saviour. We want somebody who's going to save us. We want this kind of energy of it's all going to be okay. I think that's what this Knight is saying to us. This is what we're all kind of hoping is going to come along out of all this. There's going to be this kind of it's all okay, it's all right. I have saved the day kind of thing. And what's underneath and what's, yeah, what we're not so aware of, the Three of Earth. If you turn it up this way, you can see that she's kind of looking into the future. She's kind of looking on the horizon to see what's coming in, what's happening next, where are we going, what's, you know, what's all this about. But she's also very stuck, but in many ways, in this past as well. It's almost like she's got completely rooted as to where she is. And so I feel also that there's a very similar energy here with this upside down death card, in the sense that she doesn't want this change. We don't want this change. We don't particularly want to have our lives you know, it's about the unknown. We don't know what's coming. We don't know. We're just kind of all in the same boat in many ways, just wondering, you know, what's on the horizon, what's coming next, what can we expect. It is the great unknown. But there is also this sense of having got so used to things being the way they are that we're very kind of, she reminds me again of a kind of statue. I tend to kind of see her as this like statue. She's been there for so long. She's just kind of become rooted. It is earth. It is physical realm. And so on a kind of symbolic level, it's kind of saying to me that our history has kind of created this sense of statue-like being, like we've become so fixed in who we are that there's no breaking free. And I feel that this is what this Hierophant is about as well, this kind of need for us to break free, to kind of spread our wings and really kind of like, you know, see that there is so much more to us than what we believe. There is so much more to our history. There is so much more to who we are as human beings. You know, there's so many other layers to us. We're just told, you know, we are like these mechanical, physical, biological beings, when actually we've got all these different levels of energetics that we're kind of not even aware of or clued into. We just see ourselves as these very kind of limited, there is this kind of limited cocoon type of kind of almost mummified into this state of being now, that we can't break free from it. And it's come out with the Five of Cups, which is interesting because this is all about kind of a sense of betrayal and a sense of not showing who we really are. And I do feel that there is going to be a lot of this happening. I just feel on some level, you know, it's kind of the life that we've been living has kind of allowed us to pretend to be something that we're not. And this is kind of us waking up to us rather than a betrayal. Well, I suppose it is a kind of betrayal to ourselves as well from outside point of view. But also a sense of a deeper understanding of who we've betrayed ourselves in many ways by not being true to ourselves. As the Jaguar card was talking about earlier, you know, the kind of integrity. Do we still have our integrity and our impeccability? And I think that's what this card is saying here. A sense of, because if you look here, he's kind of running out on Psyche. This is Eros running out on Psyche after she's kind of discovered who he is, because up to this point she wasn't allowed to see him. So she took this candle and she kind of went to light up his face while he was sleeping, but a drop from the lamp accidentally landed on him, so he woke up and realized that she'd betrayed his trust. So there is a kind of aspect of that here as well. You know, is our trust that we've placed in other people being betrayed? Have we put our trust in the wrong people? And that, you know, that can be locally, that can be personally, individually, and outwards, you know, the rippling effect of how far out does that go? How far out does that trust? Who do we trust? Why do we trust them? And like I said, I do think there's going to be a lot of stuff that's going to come out that is going to really shock us about who we've put our trust in and who we've kind of put on pedestals as well and looked up to as being so much more than they actually are, while we ourselves have been made to believe that we're not as relevant or important or amazing or whatever verb, noun, whatever word you'd like to use to kind of, you know, express that. But here we have this, the Two of Air, which often talks about a need for a major decision to be made. This is the energy that's moving away. But for me, this card is all about kind of being mesmerized and hypnotized, and kind of, I find it quite like snake-like, and you know, the fact that she's got all these feathers, these beautiful blue feathers, and she's kind of very, she's also got this pattern on her back as well that is very kind of, there's something about it that's very kind of draws you in, it pulls you in, and it kind of, I feel has this kind of mesmeric, kind of hypnotic kind of look about it. Like I was saying, this kind of snake charmer type of energy to it for me. About us being kind of mass hypnotically kept in this energy where we've not been able to kind of choose things for ourselves, where decisions have been kind of made for us, which we haven't had any say in whatsoever. And it had come out with the upside down High Priestess. And the High Priestess for me is all about a sense of innocence, a sense of purity, a sense of kind of really knowing our inner childlike energy as well. There is this real kind of innocence and purity about this energy. It's also the energy of Pisces. It is the energy of our instincts, our inner knowing, our subconscious realm. Literally, it is the subconscious. This person here, who is depicted as the High Priestess, is Persephone. She was stolen by Pluto, or Hades, and taken down into the underworld to become his bride. And she didn't have any choice, basically. She had no say in the matter. While she was in the underworld, she ate this one pomegranate seed, which was kind of symbolic of fertility as well. The pomegranate seed kind of represents the female ovum, and all the eggs that are held therein. And so her mother, Demeter, sorry, I think it's the same Greek, Roman, Hera, Demeter, it's the same goddess. and basically searched the whole world for her and couldn't find her until eventually she found her underground, and she forced Zeus to release her. But Zeus said he could only release her if she hadn't partaken of anything from the underworld, and she said that she had ate this one pomegranate seed, so she now has to reside 6 months underground and 6 months above. So that's why she kind of represents this subconscious realm as well. She represents the seasons too, or like her mother represents the seasons, because it's every 6 months during the winter months that Demeter goes into this kind of mourning phase for her daughter as well. So this subconscious realm is also about kind of learning things on a deeper level. It's about going into our inner world, a world that we don't often visit as human beings. We kind of ignore that. We kind of just like, you know, we're not brought up to trust our instincts or our feelings or go deeper within ourselves. We're brought up to kind of everything's in the head. It's all intellect, it's all intelligence, it's all to do with academia, and I've spoken about this before. And so I feel on some level that there's this kind of, you know, this need for us to go deeper down, deeper into our subconscious realm, even though there is a reluctance here because it is it is in reverse, and it is a place that we don't want to visit. But that's where we're going to find our, you know, our true saviour is within ourselves, not on the outskirts, not on the outside. This is about kind of tuning into different things. And people have a real reluctance. I just feel that on some level people are very reluctant to listen to themselves, listen to their own inner knowing. We often just brush it off as if, oh yeah, you know, I feel that, but it's not important. But we also have the King of Cups come out in this energy as well, which is all about our emotions and our sensitivity. King of Cups relates very much to the same kind of energy, the water energy. Scorpio, Pisces and Cancer. And if you know any water signs, you will know that they are very sensitive souls. And they live very much in their feelings. They're much more feeling orientated. You may not always know it because they don't always show it, but that doesn't mean that they don't have that really strong sensitive side to them. And so this is, again, this is what's moving away, but it is all about our emotions. It is really, and what is happening out there at this moment in time is triggering so many different deep-held emotions and deep-held fears in many ways as well. And bringing it up to the surface. Although I don't feel as though it has come up to the surface yet. I don't feel that that's what's taken place yet. It may take a while for that to actually occur. I think that we're still in that process of kind of really digesting it and kind of beginning to recognize it or feel it, really beginning to feel it and kind of really knowing what's going on emotionally for people out there as well, people who are kind of losing their loved ones and are going through this suffering process. There is also a compassion energy as well, though, a compassionate side to the King of Cups. He is also in this card known as the energy of the wounded healer. He carries that energy in the sense that he's very good at helping heal other people, but he's not so good at healing himself. So again, it's like that outer energy rather than the inner energy. Rather than looking at healing our wounds, our own wounds, we kind of look to other people to see what's wrong with them. You know, what's your problem? What's your issue? Let me focus on you rather than kind of focusing on my problems and my issues. I used to have this expression that it's kind of like digging the weeds in other people's garden because you don't want to look at the weeds in your own, metaphorically. So the energy that's moving in is a very beautiful energy. We have the sun. And the sun is all about, and it's upright. So that's really good. It's all about this kind of clarity. I feel this kind of lifting of the darkness after a time of being very much in the dark, kept in the dark and of not really knowing what's going on in the unknown realm, which is also this energy here as well, the kind of unknown feelings, kind of knowing it on some level, but it not kind of manifesting as such. So yeah, the sun speaks of a energy of clarity, of illumination, of things kind of suddenly being made much more clear, of overcoming things, of a victory, of just this kind of much more sunny, people being like the sense of a happier energy, brighter, things making more sense. And it came out with, sorry, my cat is just destroying absolutely everything here, as she's so good at doing. Pretty cat. Pretty cat. Right, okay. It came out with a Wheel of Fortune, which is also up the right way as well. And this speaks to me about this kind of inner journey, if you like. The Wheel of Fortune, wheel is turning. It's also kind of for me depicted here as well in this kind of sunshine, and it kind of says that this, you know, this is something that is not going to last forever. As the wheel turns, as the planets move, as things change, as the world shifts gear, things will come back to this place here. Things will kind of begin to clear up. Things will become much brighter, lighter, easier. And, you know, we will be able to move forward, which is what I think this is talking about here. And in the process, we may also be able to kind of recognise the parts that we ourselves have had to play in this as well. The Wheel of Fortune to me often speaks of being at the centre of our own universe, and each of these spokes is the kind of energy that we're putting out there. So, you know, are we putting out fear and kind of more panic, and or are we kind of staying calmer within ourselves and staying with our integrity and our impeccability and trying to come from the best energy that we can, keeping our spirits up, seeing the best of the bad situation, but also at the same time being open and honest about it and about ourselves. So this is really, for me, you know, it is that karmic will. It's like, you know, you choose how you cope with this or deal with this, or the energy that you put out there. each and every one of us has a choice, which maybe is also about this card here as well. You know, the choice is there. The way we have two paths, you know, there is two paths here, in the sense that we can bring in more fear and more stress and more worry to this, or we can rise above it and say, like, you know, this is something that is a situation that we need to come together for as a collective, instead of kind of driving us further apart. It's about kind of bringing us together. Even though ironically we're not allowed to be together, it is about working together while not actually being allowed to be together. So that's kind of an ironic energy here as well, in the sense of I feel more about energetically than anything else. This is about energetics. This is about what we put out there is what we are going to feel back or receive back, or, you know, the kind of, this is the, don't forget, this is also Pluto Saturn energy as well. The Lord of Karma is also involved in this, as well as the Lord of the Underworld, working together. And so we have, oh no, sorry, not this card, not those two cards, these two cards. First of all, this is the card that's in this place of where we are all at the moment, the King of Fire, King of Wands in reverse. So it is this kind of Aries energy as well. It is, for me, this is the Chiron, again, the Chiron Aries, like, you know, the sun here. If you look at this card, he has this kind of transformative, like butterfly or moth or something across his face, almost like, you know, there's a transformation taking place here. And we've got the sun behind his head. Literally, for me, this card is saying very much, this is the Chiron energy, the wounded healing that we're all having to go through. He's got these, literally, his heart is in his hands, and as I was talking about with the kind of T-square as well to the North Node as well, I feel that this is also that energy that's being played out here as well. It's in reverse, and as I was saying, you know, that energy at the moment is a challenging energy. It is about, you know, finding our security and our comfort, and, you know, where do we find that? We're used to finding it in ways that we're not going to be able to find it so much at this moment in time because of all the upheavals. And the fact that the North Node is in the last, again, it's in the last 3 degrees, and the North Node is where we're heading for. It's the energy that we're moving towards. It's the lessons that we are learning as we go through this process. And so it is in, because it's in the reverse here as well, there is this kind of sense of it being I don't think it's kind of rejected as such, but I feel that on some level it's a hard lesson. It's a hard lesson that we're having to learn here. It is the fire energies, the creative energy, the kind of like, you know, what are we going to do now with all this creative energy? People are stuck at home. And normally, you know, their creative energy is put into something else. It's like, what are you going to do now? And it has come out with the Four of Cups, which actually did come out the right way up. The Four of Cups, which talks of a time of kind of a sense of despair, a sense of kind of I think kind of a boredom here as well, kind of sense of, well, you know, what do I do now? What do I do? Where am I going? How am I going to cope with what's going on? Like I was saying earlier, this sense of like, you know, you're now going to having to spend more time, not only with your family, but you're also going to have to spend more time with yourself as well. Finding ways to kind of keep yourself entertained or amused, or, you know, where you've been so used to, or we've all been so used to doing other things, and our time kind of almost being given over to something else. Just kind of like, you know, we're so used to just giving ourselves away in many ways to other energies. Now this to me speaks of this kind of almost like an emptiness. Oh yeah, like an emptiness. Because what we're so used to doing, we can't just get up and do it anymore. We can't just get up and go out the door and just carry on doing things the way that we've been used to doing them for years. For years, for some of us, you know, since we kind of left school or childhood, or, you know, that kind of repeating pattern, just doing what we do over and over again, which I think is also what this is here as well. Doing the same thing over and over again. And this is the energy normally of how other people see us, but I tend to see this as more the energy of how we are kind of all seeing the whole situation. And the Five of Pentacles, I feel, is this kind of sense of self-isolation. If you see here, it's kind of this shrouded figure, hooded, cloaked kind of figure that's leaving something behind, something that kind of has a lot of meaning to this person. But today I'm kind of getting this feeling of almost like we're having to walk away from who we have been. And I feel that that's what the Aries new moon is kind of speaking about as well, and that Chiron energy of healing and wound of that kind of person who we have been compared to the person that we could be, or who we really are. But there is an attachment here as well. This is the thing about it. There is attachment. We are attached to this way of being. We are attached to this way of life, this lifestyle, this kind of person that we are. We are attached to it. So there is a part of us that is finding it, or is going to find it difficult to leave it behind. But at the same time, it's not allowing us to grow. It's not allowing us to move on. It's not allowing us to become more than what we are. It's that energy of kind of being... Usually it's an energy of like being put out in the cold, which in some ways it is, because I do feel that on some ways, you know, we're all being kind of told, you know, you can no longer do that. You can no longer go to work. You can no longer have that lifestyle at the moment. You can so it is a kind of sense of being put out in the cold. You can no longer associate with those people. You can no longer have those friends in your house. You know, you have to stop meeting. You can't go to pubs. You can't go to theatres or cinemas or cafes, or, you know, you can't do that. You can't do that anymore. And we're all having to kind of come to terms with what that's going to mean. And it also come out with the Five of Air as well. And this card is also in reverse. And this literally talks to me. This card came out the other day in a reading, and it talks to me about being on that tightrope of life. Life is the tightrope, and it's kind of, you know, reaching that point where we don't know how to take the next step forward. What is the next step forward? Is it safe? If I put my foot down, am I going to lose my balance? And how long can I just stay here in this suspended kind of animation, if you like, this suspended place? How long am I supposed to be just suspended? I feel that's kind of the energy at the moment. It's like, you know, just everything's suspended. Everything's just kind of ground to this halt, and we're all kind of in this place of like suspended animation, waiting, wondering. And whereas before, you know, we had all these kind of, I'd say, like, you know, these crutches or these things that we had to rely on, these things that we kind of knew that were there for us, that would stop us from falling through the net. It's like, you know, do we still have that? Is that security there? And in our hopes and our fears, we have the Fool, which is about new beginnings, but it's in reverse. So at this moment in time, again, we're kind of not trusting that something beneficial is going to come out of this. We're all kind of in this sense of, I know that this is different. I know that there's a new story. I know that something new is coming into my life. I know that this is a new beginning. But can I trust it? Can I allow myself to let go of all that old baggage and move into something new? And it's kind of still being created. So there is also a sense of like, what does it even look like? How can I trust it if I can't see it? How can I trust it if I don't know what it's about? How can I trust myself to move into something that is yet to be understood? But that's really what the Fool talks about. It talks about a leap of faith. It's saying, like, you know, that leap of faith has to happen in order for something new to begin. The new only ever begins by a leap of faith. And this is on a grander scale, because this is our hopes and our fears. This is about what we are creating for our future. And it has as well the 7 of Wands or the 7 of Fire here. So there is also this element here of us feeling like we are having to battle with other people. And I feel as though this is also about, you know, the battle for our survival as well, in many ways. You know, which is why there's people going out and hoarding and kind of, you know, fighting other people off, and rather than working together, pardon me, in a team, it is bringing out that side of people. This is hopes and fears, don't forget. So it is kind of like, you know, are we going to take this into our future as well? Are we still going to have this energy, or is this kind of the energy that we need to let go of so that we can work together, rather than just all of us having to kind of fight for our own individual beliefs or our own individual lifestyles? ways of being. But it has also got this card here, which is a very good card to have in our hopes and our fears, because this is, again, kind of very much this Hierophant energy as well. As I was talking about earlier, the same kind of tools here that are all being collected, standing literally at this crossroads of our new beginning. And this kind of, for me, is all about kind of walking your walk and talking your talk. It's the Magician is Mercury. This is Hermes. This is the messenger of the gods. He's got one hand up and one hand down, because it's about bringing the energy of the larger energy, if you like, of something bigger than us, down onto the planet. And this, I feel, isn't just about individual lives, although it is. It's also about us all working together as a collective, rather than us working individually for our own needs and our own selfish gain, which again goes back to the kind of medicine energy card of integrity and impeccability and compassion for each other. So in the card of Magician, you can literally see all these tools here, and the same thing here on this table. And the sword here is represented by this, as I was saying, you know, the pen is mightier than the sword. It's about solving problems. With less kind of might is right energy. And using the mind, which is what the sword represents, and the pen here represents the mind, the kind of intellect of understanding on a deeper level. But it is about bringing something into the physical realm. Here the Magician speaks about bringing in that creative energy and that emotional feeling into the physical realm here, which is what the pentacle represents. It represents the physical realm, the earthly, the creative. It's only in this realm that we can use all of these different levels of our being, our creativity, our intellect and our emotions all coming together to focus on this, the physical realm, to focus on a new way of being, to focus on a new world, to focus on a new creation. And again, you know, here she's got her hands above her head. She's pulling the energy down into the physical realm here. And it is about us kind of awakening up to the fact that we are just, well, not just, but we are kind of all players within this story that's taking place on this earth plane. And we all have our part to play. And can we do it together, rather than this kind of energy here of fighting against each other for our own survival. Pretty cat. She's a good girl. So we have the final cards here of the Six of Cups, which to me is all about a longing and a yearning and a looking back at our childhoods, which could also be the Chiron Aries energy as well, which I was talking about earlier, because Aries does represent that kind of child, kind of, you know, the period of time of where our needs need to be met. And there's a nostalgia and a melancholy here as well, and a kind of attachment again to the past and how things have been, and this kind of not necessarily wanting to let things go, not necessarily wanting, because a lot of people, I feel, you know, don't really understand the bigger picture of what is taking place because nobody's been educated into it. Nobody's taught these things. We're just taught the same mundane stuff over and over again, you know, which again is possibly where the kind of feeling of betrayal comes in as well, of not being educated in that sense. But there is this kind of light behind her here as well, which I feel is kind of this sunshine, this kind of realization, this kind of awakening to something. Also a realization that the past is the past. And you have to at some point heal it and move on. Otherwise you stay stuck in it and just keep repeating the same pattern, which is what we have been doing for centuries really, is just repeating that same pattern over and over again, and we just keep getting the same result. If you look here, she's kind of clutching her stomach in this picture here. She's kind of like, you know, she feels, you can see on her face, she's feeling this kind of deep wound, this kind of yearning, this kind of, if you look at her face, there's this kind of sorrowfulness, I feel, on her face here. And the way that she's kind of clutching her stomach as well. So she's kind of like, you know, she's missing something. Something is missing from her life. And when it's in the reverse, you can see this picture of this little girl here. There's her face and this is her hair at the side. It's not easy to see, but she's got her hands crossed like this. She's kind of holding her hands together like in prayer, as if she's praying, which is also kind of Hierophant energy as well. The praying to something else, wanting something to change, because often when we pray, we're praying for something to be different than what it is. And it is in reverse. And so it does talk to me about this kind of Chiron wounding again, this kind of healing process which is taking place across the world at this moment in time as we're going through this. And again, I think this relates to this Chiron Black Moon Lilith energy of having to heal this kind of wounded side of ourselves. Generationally as well, our history, our childhoods, our generational, you know, our parents, our grandparents, all the things that they've gone through, the history of our planet, all the souls that have been on this planet and all the suffering that has happened on this planet. I feel on some level it's like all coming out at this moment in time in this kind of way of this virus, this kind of representation of all these things that are kind of I mean, the word virulent means something that's very kind of fast acting and fast moving and very kind of not easy to contain. It kind of spreads really easily. A virus is, you know, it's virulent in its very being. And I feel that there's a lot of that energy on this planet in other ways as well. Not just as a virus, although you could see them as a virus. You could see that energy as this kind of nasty, viral, virulent energy. And there is a lot of wounded children out there. So there's also that energy of that as well, which I feel is still yet to come out. We have the Eight of Cups, which is all about going down into the depths of the emotions, walking away, but at the same time as you're walking away from whatever this was, you're also going down into the depths, and this is what this card is here as well. Going down into the kind of depths of your feelings, your emotions, the underworld, which I just feel so very strongly is going to come out on the world stage and be kind of really put in our faces in a way that we can't ignore it. With this card here as well, the Five of Wands here, having to face up to things that we don't want to face up to, having to face up to the monsters, literally, which can represent also what is happening and what we are aware of is happening globally. But to me it can also represent the things that are kept hidden, especially in reverse, the things that are kept hidden, the things that are kept in the dark, things that happen behind closed doors, secretly. And us having to kind of really face it, face the truth, face the monsters, face what we've been kind of ignoring, even though on some level we already kind of know, but don't want to see it. And the Six of Cups here, again in, not cups, sorry, Six of Pentacles here, again in reverse, talks about kind of energy of give and take, of things being beneficial, of things working for both partners, for both kind of, yeah, partners, people that are involved in this. This doesn't have to be a relationship. I'm not talking necessarily about partners in relationship. This can just be two people who are kind of benefiting from each other's energy, from what one person can offer the other. And again, it doesn't have to be about money, and this could also have something to do with our finances in the sense of the way that things are going to change there as well. And how we, at this moment, you know, there's the power is very much one-sided. You have those that have and those that have not. And it is very one-sided. And I do also feel that that is also all involved in this as well. Again, because the people who have the most are the people who are the ones hiding the most. And not just financially. So the whole balance is completely out here. Everything is out of balance. But the Emperor card here is saying that the shift, there is going to be a shift of power, I feel. That this power is not going to be held onto forever by the same groups of people, same families of people. There is going to be a shift of power here. The Emperor talks of power. The Emperor talks of now, for me, the Emperor is also Leo energy as well. So it could also be about things being brought out into the spotlight, which is also possibly this card here as well. The sun, the spotlight, the clarity, the seeing things clearly. The Wheel of Fortune turning. And the Emperor being seen to actually have no clothes. Seeing through things as they as we were told they were, but they're not actually the way we believe they are. Because the Emperor is a historical figure as well. There's something about the history here, the historical energy that's involved in the power that's handed down or handed on. Yeah, I just get the feeling that things are going to kind of come into the light, and that the power that we have given away, we are going to kind of take it back and become more sovereign. As I was kind of saying earlier as well in the astrology part of the reading, the Aries energy is also about us finding our sovereignty within all this new moon energy and the Chiron healing. So quickly move to the Namaste blessing cards, which are lovely. This one comes out quite a lot actually, this Namaste, the blessing of omnipresence. I've read this a few times, and it says, breathe in light and breathe out any unwanted thoughts. Dwelling on what has been or might have been serves no purpose. Which is very much this card here actually, this nostalgia, this melancholy, this only if only. If only things could have been different, if only I had done that differently. Acted like this instead of like that. Feel the healing omnipresent light that surrounds and fills you. Focus on the present, for it is blessed with infinite potential. So that's a very beautiful card for this moment in time, for us to focus on what's happening now and to breathe in the light. Breathe it in, breathe in light and breathe out any unwanted thoughts. Dwelling on what has been or might have been serves no purpose. Feel the healing, omnipresent light that surrounds and fills you. Focus on the present, for it is blessed with infinite potential. Going for anybody who might want to screenshot that. That's the card there. But we did get another one as well. Two came out for us today. So we have Namaste Blessing. And it says, this is literally the Namaste blessing itself, which is interesting because there's two blessings there, the omnipresence as well. The divine in me acknowledges the divine in you. I bow to you and honour your inner light of pure and unconditional love. Eternal peace be with you. Eternal love be with you. Eternal joy be with you through this serendipitous blessing. Again, if anybody wants to screenshot that. Very beautiful. And we have very quickly the Celestite Diva card for this 2 weeks over the new Aries moon, which will last right up until the full moon. Which will be taking place in Libra. And the card is Generosity, which is quite interesting considering the energy that's around at the moment. Generosity of spirit, I feel, rather than generosity of physical things, although that may also come into it and be very kind of important, but I feel more that this is about generosity of giving of ourselves. And it's for the throat chakra, and it's blue. And it says, there is no shortage of emptiness in the world. Empty pockets, empty jobs, empty marriages. But the most tragic example of emptiness is the empty spirit. An empty spirit may have been drained by hopelessness, loneliness, fear, or resentment. When people feel spiritually impoverished, their tendency is to hold on desperately to what little reserve they have. The remedy for this emptiness is not in hoarding, it is in giving. Even if they feel they have nothing to give, generosity is the medicine they need in order to heal. And I think that's what I was saying about this kind of feeling of emptiness and wanting to hoard in order to kind of fill that emptiness up. And actually it is all about the opposite. Generosity fills the void of an empty spirit as water fills an empty vessel. Generosity is love pouring from one heart into another. It is a response to the cries of distress you hear around you. It is touching another's soul with compassion. Listen with your heart to the hearts of others. They will tell you how you can help. It's Mr. Leo fire sign here. There are many ways on the physical level that you can share your generosity with others. You might prepare a gift of food, you could donate clothing or contribute to a charity. Offering a warm bed to a friend who is temporarily without shelter is a gift of generosity. You could also volunteer your time to help the homeless, shut-ins, or those with serious illnesses. We understand that the giving of one's time, help, or home is not always a simple matter. You probably already have more in your life than you can handle. Your immediate family, your job, relatives that need special attention, endless meetings to attend, and scheduling nightmares. And strangely enough, that's all the kind of things that are being removed at this moment in time. You may need to consider practical matters before getting involved, but the true spirit of generosity does not come from the national analytical part of yourself. Generosity is spontaneous. It is hearing another's often unspoken cry for help and answering in your heart without hesitation. It is an emotional, spiritual connection of empathy from one soul to another. When you feel your heart ache as you see the need in others, respond. Find a way to give of yourself without letting details or inconveniences get in the way of the expression of love. In your daily comings and goings, you may not pass the homeless on the street, see the loneliness of those in nursing homes, or experience the war-torn lives of those in other parts of the world. You may not immediately recognise that your co-workers, friends and family have unspoken problems or concerns with your hectic lives. It is easy to become desensitised to your own needs as well as those around you. Look around you. Every day there are opportunities for giving and helping. Some humans believe that if you once start giving, there will be no end to it. You will get caught up in the process and become overburdened. This need not be true. If your gift of generosity to others is somehow robbing you of your life or affecting you detrimentally, then you are not being generous enough with yourself. How can you expect to help others if you are not taking care of yourself? Are you enjoying saying charity begins at home? The more you give, the more you receive. Whatever you give out, you will find returned to you at least tenfold. With true generosity, everyone is a winner and no one is a loser. Generosity benefits both the giver and the receiver, which is what this card here is talking about. The generous, the beneficialness, the reciprocity, difficult word to say, but also the kind of like sense of helping each other out. But when it's in reverse, it is an imbalance. There is an imbalance there. And this is what we're seeing in the world at the moment. And everybody takes turns with those roles. The more freely you can give of yourself, the more of you there is to give. As you give, look at the intention behind your giving. Whether you give from a compassionate heart or from less than spiritual motives, your gift may still help someone. Then why should it matter? It matters for you. If you are not feeling true generosity towards others, you may have closed off your heart. If this situation applies to you, give it some attention. And this, I think, is why it's also come out in reverse as well. The idea of this closed off heart, of us kind of finding it difficult to give to those who are not of our own kind of family or our own social scene, our own social circle. Soften your heart to all those in difficulty who touch your life. Many of them may present themselves to you so that you can have an experience with their need and your response to it. Their predicament is a gift to you for your growth. And I think that kind of sums up the energy that is around at this moment in time quite nicely as well. And I think that there's going to be more of that coming out, this kind of need for generosity of spirit, rather than just this kind of feeling of like, I have to have it. It's, you know, I have to hoard it. I have to have as much as I need for myself, for my benefit, for, you know, my family. And this is about us kind of coming to terms, maybe also with this Cancer energy as well, recognizing that we are all one family. We are all one huge, we live on one huge planet, which is all of our home. That is our home. Our home is this planet. We might have our own little individual places that we live in, but as we can see by the way that this disease is spreading so quickly, this is all our home. There's no barriers, it knows no boundaries, it has no kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? It has no respect for status or anything really. It makes no difference. So I think there's a kind of awakening there as well. It's a kind of need for us to be generous of spirit to each other, to kind of waken up to the fact that, you know, we are all from the same source energy, really. And I think that's basically what the message for me is all about. And that is where I'm going to leave it, apart from to say that, you know, celestite could be a good crystal to have at this time in our lives, if we have any celestite. And it's still quite easy to get hold of, I think, celestite. You know, you can wear it as kind of jewellery you can get that has celestite in it, and also if you could just carry a piece on you, or sleep with it. But it's a good crystal at this moment in time for us to kind of focus our attention on, and focus on the generosity. So that is my new moon in Aries reading. I'm going to leave it there now and say thank you very much. If you have liked my reading and you have managed to listen to all of it, because I know it's quite long, it's coming up for 2 hours, could you please thumbs it up, like it for me to get it out into the kind of bigger YouTube world as well. Also, if you have subscribed, thank you very much. And for those of you who haven't subscribed yet, please could you subscribe so I can grow my channel and get my messages out there more, because I really am wanting to do that over this year, this coming year. I'm kind of focusing my attention on getting this channel, my messages out there, so that would be really helpful to me as well. The more subscribers the better, the merrier. Plus also tap the bell for any future videos that I will be putting out there. I know I keep saying in other videos I'm going to be putting out this video about Chiron and Black Moon Lilith, and I am working on it and it is going to happen, but I'm also trying to keep up to date with all the signs as well at this moment in time, and do the kind of major zodiac or major astrological readings as well. So just kind of, if you want to get any more of my videos, or if you want to check out any of my other videos that I've already done, please feel free to do so. But if you tap the bell, you will receive the videos I am going to be putting out in the future. If your message doesn't resonate with you for the videos that you have listened to previously as well, you may want to look at your other signs as well, your sun, your moon, Venus and rising, and you may find your messages in there. This is, like I said, a new moon in Aries reading for the collective. And if you think it's going to be of any interest or benefit to somebody that you know, could you please also share it, as that also helps. My email is in the description box down below for anybody who might want to have a private personal reading with me. And also there will be a natal link as well down below in the description box, so that you can check out your own natal astrology and see what's happening with your own planets and the transits that happen, as well as the house placements and things that I can't go into on a kind of individual basis because it's all vast and so much information to put into one video. So thank you again for listening. Please take care of yourselves, and remember, integrity, impeccability and generosity of spirit goes a long way. Thank you.